Most men have no idea why some older men seem to stop time, why people can't take their eyes off them, why respect and admiration follow them wherever they go. And the shocking truth, it has nothing to do with looks, money, or youth. It's something deeper, something the world rarely talks about, something almost every older man overlooks about himself. By the end of this video, you're going to see yourself differently. You're going to realize why presence, experience, emotional stability, and the way you carry your energy make you not just attractive, but magnetic in ways you've never noticed before. I'm about to reveal signs that you're already in that rare league of men that younger people admire, that people subconsciously respect, and that others wish they could understand but can't quite explain. These are not tricks, they are not shortcuts, and they're definitely not things you can buy. These are the qualities that life carves into a man, the qualities most men ignore while thinking their looks or their charm are enough. And when you recognize them in yourself, your confidence shifts, your interactions change, and suddenly the world responds to you differently, without you saying a single word. Stay with me until the very end, because what I'm about to share will change how you see your age, your energy, and your own value. You will begin to understand why being older isn't a limitation. It's a power that many men never unlock, and why those who do command attention effortlessly. This isn't motivational fluff. This is real insight into what makes a good-looking older man magnetic, compelling, and unforgettable. Watch carefully, because by the end of this video, you won't just know the signs. You'll see them in yourself, and you'll never look at aging the same way again. When we talk about a good-looking older man, most people rush to imagine physical features, sharp lines, broad shoulders, salt and pepper hair. But physical traits are not the core of it. They're bonuses. They come second. The real foundation of attractiveness at your age is presence. And presence is not something you're born with. It's something you grow into, something life chisels into you, something experience forces you to build. Your presence is the silent announcement of who you've become. It's the quiet authority that enters the room before you say a single word. Presence is the reason people look at you without understanding why. It's why someone younger glances at you twice. It's why people listen when you speak. Even if your voice isn't loud, it's the outcome of a life lived long enough to know what matters, and equally important, what doesn't. You don't waste your energy on impressing anyone. You don't rush to prove that you belong. You already know you do, and that knowing sits in your posture, in your calmness, in the way you take your time. Younger men try to take up space. Older, attractive men don't chase space. Space forms around them, because presence is not noise. Presence is clarity. There's a specific confidence that only comes with age. Not arrogance, not ego, but a form of self-recognition. You've met your weaknesses. You've met your fears. You've met your failures. And instead of letting them destroy you, you use them to shape your identity. The truth is, life has already rejected you, humbled you, questioned you, and rebuilt you. And that process gives you a kind of psychological weight that people can feel. You can't fake that. You can't pretend your way into that kind of depth. You earn it. Presence is also built on what you no longer tolerate. The things that used to trigger you at 20 barely touch you now. The things you used to chase at 30 feel insignificant. You've stopped performing. You've stopped competing with anyone except the man you were yesterday. And this internal shift changes the way you move. You operate from a place of quiet confidence instead of insecurity. You speak with intention instead of impulse. You interact with people without needing to dominate them or win them over. And the moment a man stops competing is the moment he becomes incredibly attractive, because people can feel the difference between a man who needs attention and a man who simply commands it. There's also something deeply magnetic about the discipline that presence naturally brings. You're not searching for identity. You're sharpening it. You're not reacting to life. You're shaping it. And this level of personal responsibility radiates through your behavior. You become more selective with your words, with your time, with the energy you exchange. You start moving slower, but with more purpose. You start speaking less, but with more weight. People notice the stillness. They notice the control. And even if they don't consciously understand it, they instinctively respect it. The psychology behind this is simple. Humans are drawn to certainty. We trust what feels stable. We follow what feels grounded. A man who truly knows himself becomes impossible to ignore because self-knowledge is rare. Most people, regardless of age, are still trying to fill internal voids. But you've reached a level where you no longer seek external validation to confirm your worth, and that independence becomes a signal, both to men and women, that you operate on a higher plane. This is why presence is far more attractive than youth. Youth tries to prove, presence already is. When you walk into a room now, you don't compete with the younger guys. You don't try to look like them. You don't try to sound like them. You bring something they don't have: emotional maturity, lived experience, grounded confidence, and a sense of identity that can't be shaken. You're not chasing the moment, you're anchored in it. You're not trying to be seen, you are naturally noticeable. People may not even understand why they're drawn to you. They just feel it. They feel the stability in your energy. They feel the seriousness in your gaze. They feel the comfort in your silence. They feel the difference between someone who is still becoming and someone who has become. And that difference is what makes you a good-looking older man, whether you recognize it or not. It's not the surface, it's the substance. It's the strength underneath your calmness. It's the discipline behind your simplicity. It's the intention behind your actions. It's the peace behind your silence. It's the certainty behind your presence. So the next time you step into a room, I want you to be fully aware of this. Your attractiveness is not fading. It's evolving. It's maturing. It's deepening. Your presence is the result of every challenge you faced, every transformation you survived, every truth you accepted, and every standard you refused to lower. And when a man carries this kind of presence, he doesn't need to announce his value. People feel it long before they understand it. Remember this: a good-looking older man isn't defined by age. He's defined by the power of who he has become. Let your presence speak for you, and the world will listen. When people talk about attractiveness, especially in men, they often limit the conversation to physical youth, smooth skin, perfect symmetry, a certain kind of freshness that fades over time. But the truth is far deeper, far more layered. Real attractiveness in an older man has nothing to do with trying to look young. In fact, the moment an older man tries to compete with youth, he loses what makes him truly magnetic, because the beauty of age is not in appearing younger, it's in embodying a depth that youth simply hasn't lived long enough to earn. Your face tells a story, not a story of aging, but a story of transformation, a story of battles fought, lessons learned, mistakes made, victories claimed, an identity refined. The younger version of you had a face shaped by possibility. The older version of you has a face shaped by experience. An experience is infinitely more attractive than possibility. There's something powerful about a man whose features reflect not just time, but growth. Your eyes don't carry the restlessness they used to. They carry awareness. They carry calm. They carry the ability to see through illusions that once fooled you. People notice that. They feel it when you look at them. Younger men look, but older men see. And that difference creates a pull most people don't even understand. The psychology behind this is simple but profound. Humans are drawn to people who appear emotionally seasoned. We trust faces that look like they've lived. We're subconsciously attracted to individuals who radiate certainty, who show resilience without speaking it, who display a quiet strength. And that quiet strength is written into the features of a man who has evolved through time instead of resisting it. Even the lines on your face hold significance. They're not flaws, they're records. They reveal that you have felt deeply, survived deeply, cared deeply. They show that you've been tested, and a tested man, one who emerged wiser, calmer, more stable, is far more compelling than a man who has never been stretched by life. Younger men have potential, older men have proof, and proof is always more attractive. The world is full of people who pretend to be strong, confident, and put together. But your age unmasks you. It reveals the truth of the man beneath the surface. If you've done the inner work, if you've learned to regulate your emotions, if you've developed emotional intelligence, then your face radiates it. People see the difference between a man who is pretending to be stable and a man who is stable. One feels tense. The other feels safe. Safety is one of the most attractive traits an older man can possess. Not physical safety, emotional safety. The kind that says, I'm not here to create chaos. I won't crumble under pressure. I know who I am. I know what I want. I can handle myself. That is the kind of energy that younger men rarely have, not because they lack value, but because they haven't lived long enough to cultivate it. Another aspect of your attractiveness as an older man is the calmness in your demeanor. This calmness didn't come from nowhere. It came from life teaching you what's worth reacting to and what's not. It came from heartbreaks that reshaped your view of relationships. It came from failures that changed how you approach success. It came from responsibilities that forced you to prioritize what truly matters. And those experiences carved your character in a way that youth simply cannot imitate. This is why depth is so powerful. It creates a presence that is felt, not performed. Your depth shows up in how you speak, slow, intentional, measured. It shows up in how you listen, fully without distraction. It shows up in how you handle conflict, with composure instead of chaos. Younger men often seek intensity. Older men who've matured seek clarity. And that clarity becomes part of your physical presence. Your whole face communicates it. There's also a philosophical dimension to aging that makes older men more attractive: awareness. You've learned that life is not endless. You've learned that time is precious. You've learned that moments matter, and that awareness makes you more appreciative, more attentive, more present. You're not chasing every distraction. You're not running from yourself. You've made peace with who you are. And peace, when a man carries it honestly, makes him glow. It's ironic the world praises youth, but responds more deeply to depth. You see it in conversations. You see it in the way people gravitate toward men who have a calming energy. You see it in how people open up more easily to someone who has lived. The truth is, depth is the one thing age gives you that nothing else can. It can't be bought. It can't be forced. It can't be skipped. It grows in you quietly as life shapes you, challenges you, and strengthens you. And that depth is precisely what makes an older man good looking. Not because the world feels sorry for him, but because the world respects the man he has become. There's a kind of authenticity that comes with age. You're not pretending anymore. You're not following trends. You're not performing to be liked. You're not bending to fit in. You've arrived at a point where your identity is no longer negotiable, and that certainty transforms your appearance. Even the simplicity of how you present yourself becomes attractive. You no longer need loudness to be heard or exaggeration to be noticed. Your simplicity becomes a statement. You dress clean, you carry yourself with intention, and you speak with clarity. That simplicity makes your depth more visible, and something unexpected happens. Your age stops diminishing your attractiveness and starts defining it. You are no longer competing with your younger self. You are becoming a stronger version of yourself, a more grounded, more aware, more powerful version. So when you look in the mirror, don't see age as a decline. See it as refinement. See it as elevation. See it as the sharpening of a man who has lived long enough to become something solid. Age does not take your attractiveness away. It shifts it, deepens it, and turns it into something far more compelling. A good-looking older man is not admired for youth, he's admired for character. And the truth is simple: your depth is your beauty, your experience is your strength, and your story is what makes you unforgettable. One of the most overlooked signs that you're a truly good-looking older man is the emotional stability you radiate. Most men misunderstand attractiveness. They chase physical upgrades, external validation, money, or status, hoping these things will make them more desirable. But the truth is far more psychological. The most attractive thing about an older man isn't how he looks, it's how he feels to be around. A good-looking older man carries a kind of emotional steadiness that is rare, grounding, and deeply magnetic. Emotional stability isn't a performance. It's not about being stoic to impress people or pretending to be unbothered. Real emotional maturity comes from a man who has confronted himself. It comes from facing the chaos of your own past, from admitting your mistakes, from breaking old patterns, from healing wounds instead of hiding them. And when a man does that internal work, his presence shifts. He becomes calmer, more patient, more centered. His energy no longer shakes under pressure. His reactions no longer expose insecurity. His emotions no longer control him, he controls them. And that calmness changes everything. It changes the way you walk into a room. It changes the tone of your voice. It changes the intensity of your gaze. People feel safe around you, not because you are perfect, but because you are composed. You don't escalate tension, you diffuse it. You don't amplify drama, you rise above it. You don't get pulled into emotional storms, you stay grounded even when others lose themselves. Younger men often respond quickly, react impulsively, and get triggered easily because they're still building their sense of identity. They're still trying to prove themselves. They're still trying to figure out who they are. But you've lived long enough to know that reacting emotionally to everything is a waste of power. You've learned that strength is not loudness, aggression, or dominance. Strength is regulation, strength is clarity, strength is self-control. This emotional balance is what makes people gravitate toward you without fully understanding why. They sense the difference between someone whose mind is chaotic and someone who has mastered his inner world. Emotional stability looks like peace, but it feels like confidence. It feels like authority. It feels like reliability. And reliability is one of the most attractive traits a man can ever have. There's also a psychological truth many don't realize. Emotional stability amplifies your physical attractiveness. When your mind is steady, your body language shifts naturally. Your shoulders relax. Your breathing slows. Your gestures become intentional. Your expressions soften. You look more confident without trying. Stress ages a man faster than time ever will. But emotional maturity slows that process because it reduces internal conflict and quiets the noise inside your head. And emotional stability doesn't mean you avoid emotions. It means you understand them. You respond instead of react. You express without exploding. You feel without drowning. Emotional intelligence gives you a kind of awareness that younger men simply haven't developed yet. Not because they are flawed, but because they haven't lived long enough to learn the lessons you've already mastered. You've learned that anger is usually unprocessed pain, that overthinking is usually fear, that withdrawal is usually insecurity. And when you recognize these things in yourself, you stop projecting them onto others. This is why conversations with you feel easier, why your presence feels lighter, why people trust you more quickly. Emotional stability is not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of understanding. You become someone who can hold tension without collapsing, someone who can hear criticism without becoming defensive, someone who can disagree without disrespect, someone who can be patient when others are rushing, someone who can stay calm when situations demand strength. And that level of emotional maturity is incredibly attractive because it's so rare. A good-looking older man doesn't just look stable, he is stable. His life experiences have shaped him into someone who acts with intention. He knows when to speak and when to stay silent. He knows when to walk away and when to engage. He knows what deserves his energy and what no longer does. And this inner discipline gives him an edge that no gym membership, no grooming routine, no fashion trend can replicate. People feel emotionally safe around a man like this. Not safe in the sense of protection, but safe in the sense of clarity. They know you won't toy with their emotions. They know you won't create unnecessary conflict. They know you won't project your insecurities onto them. They know your calmness is real, not forced. And that sense of emotional safety creates attraction that is deeper than physical appeal. There's also a spiritual aspect to this. When a man becomes emotionally mature, he becomes aligned with himself. His desires match his values. His words match his actions. His intentions match his behavior. This alignment creates a natural charisma that can't be faked or taught. It's the charisma of a man who has made peace with his past, accepted his flaws, and chosen to grow instead of hide. Your emotional stability also sets a powerful standard. People look at you and feel inspired to regulate themselves better. They mirror your calmness. They adopt your pace. They match your energy. Without even trying, you elevate the emotional environment around you. That is leadership. That is masculinity. That is attraction. And here's the greatest irony: emotional stability makes you more youthful than any anti-aging routine. Peace keeps you young. Clarity keeps you sharp. Emotional grounding keeps you attractive long after physical youth fades. Because people don't remember your features, they remember how you made them feel. And a man who makes others feel safe, calm, and understood is unforgettable. So the next time you question your worth, the next time you compare yourself to a younger man, the next time you think age is your disadvantage, remind yourself of this. Emotional maturity is something younger men are still chasing and something many never achieve. But you embody it, you live it, you radiate it, and that makes you a good-looking older man in the most powerful way possible. Embrace your emotional stability. It is the kind of attractiveness that doesn't fade with time, it deepens. There is a very specific kind of attractiveness that emerges only when a man reaches a certain stage in life, and it has nothing to do with physical appearance. It's the moment when you stop chasing validation, the moment you no longer shape your identity around other people's approval, the moment you become selective, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. This shift is subtle, but its impact is enormous. It marks the transition from a man who seeks attention to a man who commands it effortlessly. When you're younger, you often don't realize how much of your energy is spent trying to be liked, noticed, accepted. You adjust your tone, your behavior, your priorities to align with what others expect from you. But age, experience, and self-awareness eventually dissolve that need. You no longer want to impress the world, you want to understand yourself. You no longer chase validation, you create standards. And this is where your attractiveness as an older man becomes undeniable. Because selectiveness is a powerful signal, it shows that your attention has value. It shows that not everyone gets access to your time, your mind, your energy. And in a world where people constantly seek attention from anyone who will give it, a man who is intentional about who he allows into his life stands out. People notice when you no longer chase them. They notice when you don't react to every message, every opinion, every invitation. They notice when you move with calm certainty instead of desperation. They notice when you're present, but not needy. And this creates a kind of gravitational pull that youth cannot imitate. Younger men chase, older attractive men choose. Your boundaries sharpen as you evolve. You stop tolerating disrespect, passive aggression, inconsistency, or emotional instability. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop lowering your standards just to keep someone in your life. You prioritize peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, depth over superficiality. And that selectiveness becomes a form of self-expression, one that quietly announces your maturity. There's a philosophical truth here. What you choose to walk away from defines you just as much as what you choose to pursue. A man who knows how to say no is more impressive than a man who says yes to everything. Because no reflects inner alignment. No reflects identity. No reflects clarity. This is why your selectiveness becomes so attractive. People instinctively respect a man who values his own time. They admire a man who is not accessible to everyone. They feel drawn to a man whose attention is earned, not freely given. And they feel challenged by a man who does not chase them, because it forces them to rise to your level instead of pulling you down to theirs. There's also a deeper psychological shift that happens when you stop seeking validation. Your confidence becomes real. Not loud, not performative, not rehearsed. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need announcement. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't collapse when someone disagrees with you. It doesn't disappear when you're alone. Real confidence comes from knowing who you are and not negotiating that truth for anyone. This kind of confidence changes the way you interact with others. You don't enter conversations trying to dominate or impress. You don't view other men as competition. You don't chase women to feel worthy. You don't argue to be right. You speak to be understood. And that level of grounded self-assurance is incredibly attractive because it's rare. Younger men often attach their self-worth to outcomes. Rejection breaks them. Failure embarrasses them. Criticism threatens them. But when you reach this stage, rejection doesn't bother you. It redirects you. Failure doesn't define you. It teaches you. Criticism doesn't wound you. It reveals more about the critic than about you. That emotional immunity is what makes you captivating. And your selectiveness extends beyond relationships. It shows up in how you use your time. You don't entertain meaningless conversations. You don't waste hours scrolling. You don't pursue goals that aren't aligned with your long-term purpose. You don't let people with unstable energy drain you. Your life becomes leaner, sharper, more intentional. You streamline your priorities. You refine your circle. You focus on what truly matters. This is where another layer of attractiveness emerges: discipline. A man who is selective becomes a man who is disciplined. He doesn't act on every impulse. He doesn't chase every distraction. He doesn't sacrifice long-term gains for short-term pleasure. Discipline shows up on your face, in your body language, in the tone of your voice. It makes people feel that you are not controlled by your impulses, but guided by your principles. Your selectiveness also creates emotional clarity. You don't confuse interest with availability. You don't confuse attention with value. You don't confuse desire with compatibility. This clarity protects your heart, your peace, and your purpose. It also makes you more attractive because emotional clarity is something most people desperately lack. There's a moment in a man's life, usually after enough heartbreak, enough loss, enough disappointment, when he wakes up and realizes, my energy is a privilege. And once that realization takes root, everything changes. You stop chasing people who are inconsistent. You stop proving your worth. You stop negotiating your standards. You stop apologizing for expecting respect. You stop staying where your presence is taken for granted. And that is when your attractiveness becomes undeniable. Because nothing is more appealing than a man who values himself without needing to diminish anyone else. A man who knows what he brings to the table but does not beg for a seat. A man who offers depth instead of performance. A man who loves himself enough to walk away from anything that disrupts his peace. Being selective doesn't make you cold. It makes you aware. It makes you wise. It makes you emotionally self-sufficient. And emotional self-sufficiency is one of the rarest and most desirable traits a man can possess. So understand this clearly. Selectiveness is not distance. It is refinement. It is not ego. It is evolution. It is not disinterest. It is discernment. The truth is simple. When you stop chasing validation, you become the kind of man people seek validation from. Protect your energy. Choose your company wisely and let your standards speak for you. Because a man who knows his value never needs to chase. He attracts.